Hi everyone, Mark Field here from Carpool Aftermarket. I'm about to go and pick up Ross Toomey from S&P Europe, and Ross is the Managing Director, and we're going to go and find out a little bit about his business. Welcome Ross to Carpool Aftermarket, a little drive and survive with Mark in the car. Right, let's go.
We're not going to be singing, are we?
No, we're not going to be singing. So my first question, what do S&P do? Who are you and what do you do? What do S&P Europe do?
So S&P Europe are a engineering manufacturing company, specialise in engine management. So we've diversified over the years, but we've been involved in OE manufacture, aftermarket manufacture, private label. We make quite a few components now, much more than we used to, and we've gone from traditional to the more modern applications. And in
the market that we're in, are you're one of the best kept secrets in the trade?
Yeah, so I keep getting told. Yeah, people come around there. We're not what they expect at all. We're very different. I think people think we buy product in, we ship product out, whereas we have a engineering centre in Nottingham, we have an engineering centre in Poland, a facility out there, and we design, come up with the concepts, we find improvements or find solutions to the aftermarket needs now.
And the background of the business is all engineering, the ownership, but also its roots are purely in engineering.
Yeah, so Ian, owner, chairman of the company, he's a electronic engineer, and his heart has always been in that field. And
how, I mean, on that, in terms of getting that message across to the automotive aftermarket, and in a very competitive market that you're in, and then I dare say a lot of other product groups are the same, but how important is it to promote that sort of engineering side of your business? Because it's vitally important. It might not necessarily be as recognisable, but there aren't many of these types of businesses, are there, in the UK anymore?
No, not in the UK, not in Europe actually. There's a handful. Probably think of 2-3 others off the top of my head, but it's yeah, I mean, the engineering philosophies are, if there's a need or a requirement, what can we do to get that to the market in a way that is quality and sustainable, but also at a price that's competitive, which is where sometimes it gets a bit more confusing with the quality that comes out of various territories from around the world.
But having that UK focus means you are extremely close to the market. So yeah. How many people are there in the UK UK office? So
in the UK office there is probably about 120.
Okay.
120 people. About 10% of our company is engineering.
Right. Okay.
And then there's a large chunk that is manufacture and warehouse distribution. And then obviously the office functions, marketing, sales, exec team.
And obviously, when I say S&P Europe, some people will know the brands. They'll know Intermotor.
Yes, so Intermotor is our main brand. As us as a company, we also have a license for Lucas for the engine management for the UK, Europe, and other territories.
Yeah. And that's been good for you in terms of taking that on, that famous green box?
I think so. We used to manufacture, so back in the day when the company started, we actually made dizzy caps and traditional ignition for Lucas. The wet coil that we still produce, is on the original tooling from back in the day where we made it for Lucas. So the ones that you find in our box, in the Intermotor box, in that Lucas green box, they are the traditional wet coil, made to the high levels that people expect.
Right, okay. A lot of heritage in the business then, that's always good.
Yeah, I mean, those machines are older than I am.
How long have you been with the business?
13 years.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So I actually came from the natural stone industry.
Yes.
Way back when.
And do you enjoy our aftermarket?
I do. I mean, it's got similarities to the industry I was in before.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of good guys and girls, and I think some interesting people. I've been to massive places. I've been to small shops, to motor factors. I remember one of my first visits was actually Unity Motor Factors down in Woking.
Okay.
When I started in the company as a UK sales rep, and I went there and met those guys, and kind of the personalities that I met there kind of fell in love with, and I was kind of hooked. That way.
I mean, that's the great thing about the trade, the personalities that we've got, the characters, as we like to call them, and again, it's that it complements all the work that we're doing. And I've just presented an award to you for EGR valves as a product of the year for IWF. The great thing, I think, there, and obviously people will see it on LinkedIn, but they won't see it necessarily in this car, is that there's a whole team effort that goes into that, and it's full of characters, and there's a lot of heart, life and soul into putting together a product, which people might just take it as for granted, but they care.
Yeah, I think that's true. When you look at the pumps, I mean, don't get me wrong, we're not perfect. We know we're not perfect, but we try our best to, as I said, bring the market credible product at good prices and stuff that's going to last on people's cars, and give us as a company, but also an industry, a good name. I guess the philosophy that we work is we're a family-owned company, and the philosophy behind it is we try to treat everyone as family, and everybody has a voice, an opinion, a say. We decide which way we're going, and then we run with that.
What markets do you supply now around the world?
I think 2023 we sold into 37 different territories.
Right, okay. Yeah. Wow. And again, those that know you, or those that perhaps even don't know you now, one of the things that you're very big into is obviously sponsorship, or sports sponsorship, that being Team GB ice hockey. So tell me how that came about.
I mean, it was a crazy one. Like I said before, we're an engineering company. We're good at engineering. It's what we've always done. And marketing isn't something we've ever particularly pushed or been great at. We've had some wins with marketing, but we decided we'd bite the bullet and put a marketing department in. Yeah. So we brought in Will Fry, we brought in Martin Turner, and they headed that marketing team. And we were sat in a meeting trying to figure out how we could best utilise that skill that the guys brought in. So make flyers, posters, promotions, whatever it was. But what could we do to get people really seeing us as a company, or us as a brand? And I'm big into my hockey. I love it. I played juniors growing up. When I moved up to Nottingham, I fell back in love with it. After Emily took me to the Motorpoint Arena. Yeah. Watched
home of the Nottingham Panthers.
Yeah, watched the game, Panthers against Cardiff, and it was when one of the guys got hit so hard on the boards, like you could hear the breath leave him, and I was like, yeah, I'm back. you got the smell of the sweat, as disgusting as it sounds. It was like being home. And Will knew I loved it, and he just made a joke, why don't we sponsor the national team? Because we did a bit of sponsorship with the Panthers, which was good for us, but it was a limited market. And we've got aspirations to be truly international, which, I mean, some of 37 countries, we feel like we're heading that way. So he tabled, well, why don't we do something with the national team? So me, Martin, Ian kind of joked, all right, well, good idea, but probably outside of our price remit. And after the meeting, I just said to him, well, if it's something you think we could do, why don't you go and have a look? So he went away, had a look, and made contact with them. and it kind of grew arms and legs from there.
Okay.
It came from nothing really.
And there's been an evolution in terms of obviously where it started, because you have the S&P Europe pink logo now, or the Intermotor pink logo.
We do, yeah. So the S&P pink logo is what we thought we'd do is obviously get some benefit of sponsorship for the company and brand, so we can push that and get it out there for people to see. We decided to tie that into charitable work as well.
Right.
So last year, for example, Martin, Will and myself designed a jersey that the GB team played in.
Right, okay.
Had the big pink S&P logo on the arm. That was sold after the tournament, and we raised £30,000 for breast cancer.
Wow.
Which we're donating next week. And it's just every year we do charitable work. For the past few years it's been breast cancer.
Yeah.
I think this year we're looking at doing something for prostate cancer.
Right, okay.
The concept behind it was something that people know but different at the same time. So we were trying to come up with ideas, and I don't know if I've told you before, but the idea for pink actually came from my daughter Evie.
Right, okay.
We were on a Teams call, and me and Martin were playing around with different colour palettes, and she came in and said, "Oh, what about pink?" And I kind of looked at Martin and was like, "Not a chance."
Kids come up with the best because they come up with the most simplest of things, and say they simplify things amazingly well.
Yeah.
So what about this? Why can't you do this?
For sure. And I mean, our view was, will the automotive market relate to it? But then we looked at it and fell in love with the pink.
Yeah.
It started off as breast cancer, but we've actually kept it and adapted it, and it's now our hybrid charity.
Right, okay.
Logo. So wherever you see the pink, it's where we're fundraising.
The person who sat here before you left you a question that was, and you've got to leave the next person a question.
Ooh.
So your question is, who has been the most influential person in your life?
In my life?
Yeah.
Well, obviously my parents and my in-laws are massively influential for me. I've known Emily since I was 3 or 4, so they've pretty much been second parents my whole life.
Yep.
And I've learnt a lot from my dad and from Ian and from Maggie and my mum. I think probably my granddad.
Okay.
He was moved over from Ireland when he was young.
Right.
With my nan, came from nothing, and all he wanted to do was help people.
Yeah.
And I found him inspirational as a kid, and we used to go out, and although I didn't have a political view at the time, I used to go round and help him leaflet drop for the party that he represented, and he ended up becoming Mayor of Slough.
Okay.
And used to go and meet with the Queen quite often at Windsor Castle, and he introduced me to a lot of people, and a lot of the, I guess, characteristics I've got of replications of his. I think
it's so undervalued, the fact that people of an older generation have so much to teach us, but to tell us, and it's often ironic in that it's the generation that probably is the best adept at saying the least, because their actions have always spoke louder than words. They're not often there aren't the egos, there aren't the to spend. There are things that my parents talk about, and I'm really, did you have a job there? Is that what you did? Oh, the family used to run pubs in Birmingham. Oh, I didn't know that. All these things that you find out, that there's fascinating lives that people lead.
Yeah, I think the one thing that really struck home for me was his dedication and his work ethic. And he had all that drive and ambition, wanted to do stuff, but it was all centered around his family. He wanted to do the best for his family. Wasn't bothered about what he had. He just wanted to make sure that they were secure and looked after, but also that they were good people in society.
So coming to the end of our Carpool Aftermarket with Ross Toomey, S&P Europe Managing Director. Ross, you've got to leave a question to the next person. So it's a tough one, and you've got to think about it. And obviously we've gone through what the other people have left, and you've answered your question in terms of who was the most influential person in your life thus far.
Yeah.
What are we leaving for the next one?
I think I'm going to go with what's been your biggest regret, and then if I can add a second,
You can.
What have you learned from it, or what have you done to turn that into one of your successes?
Yep.
I think we all face challenges at times. We handle it different. Sometimes we're good, sometimes we're not.
Yeah.
But we all learn and grow, and we're all on the journey. And I think sometimes it can turn people into superstars.
Yeah. You never. What is that? I always use that analogy at the moment. The Apollo 11 or whatever it was that was going to the moon never went in a straight line. You're always going. Sometimes you're down, sometimes you're up. A lot of businesses do that. People do that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I agree.
So that's it. So coming back to SMP Europe in Nottingham. Ross, thank you for your time today.
No, thank you. Cheers.